Hello, in this video, I'm going to go through 10 cards that I would play if I was going to build a Primo, the Unbounded Commander deck. Now, none of these cards are printed in the Quandrix Precon, so these could be good upgrades for that deck if you chose Primo, the Unbounded, as your face commander. For X, green, green, blue, it is a 0/0 trample that enters with twice X +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever one or more creatures you control with base power 0 deal combat damage to a player, create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token, then put a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the damage dealt. It's one of those cards that cares about the total damage dealt. You know, there's some that are like, the damage is all dealt no matter what. The excess damage of trample becomes a creature. This is just the excess damage becomes a creature. One cards that are good for this are Hydra cards. This one is 3 green green for a 0/0. It has trample. It enters with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever it attacks, you double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Not just this card, not just your commander, but all of them. And this deck is focused on making multiple kinds of tokens, taking advantage of the Hydras and the X spells that have 0 power, and doubling up on their tokens, +1/+1 counters, which is just fantastic. And it has trample, so it's going to very quickly add to that damage that are dealt to players to make that 0/0 fractal. Herald of Secret Streams is 3 and a blue for a Morphoke Warrior. It is a 2/3 with creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them can't be blocked. We are a deck that cares about 0 power creatures dealing combat damage to players. Making them unblockable means that that damage is dealt even faster and even quicker. While it doesn't synergize with Primo specifically, it takes advantage of everything else that's in the deck. Terra Symbiosis is 2 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, you draw that many cards. Do this only once each turn. Now, this card is great in this deck because you're putting tons of +1/+1 counters everywhere. But the nice thing about Terra Symbiosis is the fact that if you just have a trigger at the beginning of your upkeep that says put a +1/+1 counter on something, Terra Symbiosis has a may ability. You may do it. So you can wait until the most opportune time during anyone's turn, whether it's yours or your opponent's, to draw the cards. And one of the most opportune times, my guess, is going to be when Primo's ability triggers and puts a number of +1/+1 counters equal to the damage dealt. It's going to be 5, 10, 20 in some cases, I think, very easily with this deck. So you can just choose to do it then and draw 20 cards then. Then all of your synergies, you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on something, your deck's going to go crazy. But I love Terra Symbiosis because it's a may. So you can choose when is the most opportune time to take advantage of it. Ba Sing Se is a land from the Avatar set. It enters tapped unless you control a basic land. You're only playing 2 colors, so I think you're going to be playing, 5 of each basic, if not more. Tap, add a green. 2 green, tap, Earthbend 2, activate only as a sorcery. Now, what does Earthbend mean? Target land you control becomes a 0/0 creature with haste. It's still a land. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. When it dies or is exiled, return to the battlefield tapped. Now, when I'm building commander decks or upgrading commander decks or just trying to see what I want to do, you want to make sure you look at all of the card types, including your lands, to see where you can get more value out of. And a land that produces 0 base power creatures is fantastic in this deck. We care about that, and we can get it from a land. And the land only comes into play tapped sometimes. And you can do this whenever you have open mana. I don't think you're really going to be holding up that many counter magic spells. You're not going to be a flash speed deck. I think you're going to be a sorcery speed deck. So it's not like you have to hold up mana constantly with Primo. So I think Ba Sing Se is fantastic. Combined Chrysalis is green and a blue for an artifact. It gives creature tokens you control flying. And you can pay 2, a green, a blue, tap, sack a token to make a 4/4 green beast. My main focus is the fact that our commander produces base 0 creatures that puts +1/+1 counters on it that can re-trigger it. They just have to deal combat damage. So giving them a form of evasion on a 2-mana thing is fantastic. Giving the creature tokens flying is going to be exactly what you need to get that excess combat damage dealt. Wave Goodbye is 2 blue. It's a sorcery from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Commander. Return each creature without a +1/+1 counter on it to its owner's hand. It reminds me of the card from Streets of New Capenna that's destroy all creatures with no counters on them. This just returns everything that doesn't have a counter to its owner's hand. You are Your commander cares about plus and plus encounters. Your cards care about plus and plus encounters. You're creating these fractals that have plus and plus encounters on them. So just returning everything elf and waving goodbye to everything is fantastic. It's only 4 mana. It's basically a one-sided board wipe, and it's going to open up the majority of your opponents to taking additional combat damage, which is just, I keep saying it, exactly what this deck wants to do. Another thing this is going to have to do is draw a ton of cards. You're going to be dumping out your hand, I think, very quickly. You're playing Simic, you're going to ramp just fine. So drawing more cards is fantastic, and Idol of Oblivion can do that. We are producing a token every turn. So a 2-mana artifact that taps to draw a card, if we create a token this turn, is what we want. We plan on one or more of our creatures dealing damage to our opponents every turn. And Primo by itself is a 0 power creature with trample, so it's not going to be that hard to make even a 1/1 token to be able to draw a card. Later in the game, when you for some reason don't need the card draw, you can pay 8, tap, sack this artifact to make a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature token. Inspiring Call is 3 mana for an instant. Draw a card for each creature you control with a plus and plus encounter on it. Those creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. Nothing worse than doing what your deck wants to do and just producing all these creature tokens and all these creatures, and then someone just board swipes it. Blah. Plus, it also draws you the cards, which I was just talking about how important that is. Instant speed, all of these effects on one card is fantastic. Propagator Drone is green 1 for a 2/2. It has Devoid, it's an Eldrazi, and it gives creature tokens you have evolve. I think this is a very underplayed card. The card has, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it has greater power or toughness than this token, put a plus and plus encounter on this token. And then 3 in a green, create a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn. The Propagator Drone is one of those cards that you play in the early game, and it just synergizes a little bit with your deck. But as you get to the later game, every turn, if you're producing a 13/13 creature, and the next turn you're going to create a bigger creature because you have more creatures, and they're doubled, and they have trample, and they have fly, and all those kinds of things, it's going to make it so the tokens that you made in earlier turns build up with it. You can also put excess mana into it and make a 0/1 creature that happens to also have base power 0. I think Propagator Drone is very good. Ripples of Potential is another way to synergistically protect our board. For 1 and a blue, it's an instant. It has Proliferate. Then choose any number of permanents you control that had a counter put on them this way. Those permanents phase out. They just, according to the game, disappear until your next turn, but you also get to make all of them one counter bigger, which is fantastic and what our deck wants to do. Those are the 10 cards that I would be sure to play if I was going to build a Primo, the Unbounded commander deck focused on making these fractals and taking advantage of those plus and plus encounters. If you'd like to see me go through the entire Quandrix commander deck, it should be on your screen now. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and may your top decks be ever in your favor. Thank you.